Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name again is Jeffrey Davis. I'm host of Radio Entrepreneurs. And as I say to so many people, just so much is going on in this economy that there's so much to talk about how people are dealing with transition. Our next guest, Alex Gruzen, CEO of WiTricity. I hope I got that right, Alex.
WiTricity.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Wireless electricity or Wi-Fi. Think of it that way. WiTricity.
Well, tell us about what you do.
Well, WiTricity delivers electric power wirelessly, right? So, we help enable electric vehicles to charge just by parking, right? You just park the car, turn it off, walk away, and you come back to a fully charged car. So if you think about that, if you just you drive it, you park it, you drive it, you park it, you never have to charge. It's like you had an infinite range car. So that's what we do.
I think about my Apple phone and the magnetic chargers. I think how does it work? And then I start thinking, is it less expensive, or how does it compete competitively with the current technology that's out there?
Well, the way I think about it is, in every other technology in our lives, every major technology transition, we've gotten rid of the cord, right? And here we are with the transition to electric vehicles. It's probably, in our most recent massive industry-wide technology shift. And here we are jamming a cord into people's lives where one never existed before, right? So every technology that can go wireless in history sort of has, and it sticks, right? People never want to go back to plugging something in once they've experienced it in wireless. That was with wireless data, when we got rid of these blue Ethernet cables that we had to plug into our computers. It's happened with, going from corded phones to cordless phones in the home, and then, wireless mobility and smartphones, right? So everywhere you can, we've gotten rid of cords. What WiTricity invented was the technology that allows you to move electric power, and we're talking about kilowatts of power, without wires, and to move it just as efficiently as if you had plugged in. So the net of it is that you just park your car and it'll charge just as fast and just as efficiently as if you had plugged it in. So we have the opportunity to make, range anxiety for EVs something in the past, right? I drive my car, I park it, it's always ready for me, it's always full. 90+% of the driving people do is within the range of these new EVs, right? So when you have wireless charging, it becomes like having an infinite range car. I just drive it and I park it and I walk away.
I just, as I've been driving my old-fashioned car down the highways and the roads quite regularly, and I look at these charging stations and gas stations, and I think, 10, 15 years, this might be a relic of Americana, as we'll have a whole different system throughout our cities and highways of how we're dealing with things, and what a transition that's going to be for America and for the world.
It's a really important point. And I would add that the auto industry is sort of stuck mentally with this model of the gas station, right? Like I go somewhere to fill it up with fuel. And now all the attention is on, I'm going to go someplace to fill it up with electrons, right? But there's something very different about an EV, which is we all have power at our homes, right? We have available power where we park. It could be, the parking lot at our apartment building. It could be in our own personal garages. The electricity is easily distributed. So we should not reflexively go to this model that I'm going to go someplace to charge. And what WiTricity is working towards is making it just dead simple to charge wherever it is you park, right? And I think it's actually quite important for delivering a better user experience. It's better for getting rid of this new consumer behavior of having to think about charging and having to remember to charge. And, did I charge yesterday? Will I be able to get to work today? Like just to take all of those anxieties off the table and make an EV kind of the best car experience you've ever had in your life.
What it reminds me of, sorry for my age, is that it used to be that if I needed to make a phone call, I had to get to a payphone, which was everywhere. There were payphones everywhere when I was a kid. I remember when I traveled when I was in university and I had to go with phone cards to Europe so I could call my parents and let them know I was alive because I couldn't call them all the time. I remember the first time I went to Israel, if I can say, they had one of the original American phone systems were shipped over to Israel, and I had to get special coins to use the telephones in Israel to tell my mother I was alive. And now they're all gone. Everybody's got a cell phone. People don't want their kids outside without a cell phone. They can charge them anywhere. They use them everywhere. But, again, last week, one of my friends found an old Bell telephone booth, and they took a picture and they said, "Remember this?"
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we're going to get to, right? Which is when charging for EVs is distributed, when the charging just fades into the background because I just park my car and it charges. I don't have to think about it. It becomes sort of ambient, just like you're describing about sort of connectivity and mobility and phones and communication is sort of ambient now. We don't go someplace to make a call. That's what WiTricity we will deliver. So what we do is we work with the automakers, right? When we were founded around these inventions at MIT back in 2007. We've been working with the auto industry since 2010. As of 2020, we actually have a global standard that was ratified by all the automakers for wireless charging. And so now we're starting to deploy, right? So we work with the automakers, we transfer our technology to their tier one suppliers, and it's now being built into production cars. The first in the market was the new Hyundai GV60, for example, where they've launched wireless charging in South Korea, and it's going to expand around the world. We have three Chinese automakers launching this year because the EV market in China is just booming, right? Again, using our technology. And it'll be coming in the next few years from the European automakers and the US automakers as well. So it started with the invention, then the development of the technology, then the ratification of the global standard, and now it's starting to roll out, which is pretty exciting for us.
Well, the whole thing it has been something on my mind. I'm not technically inclined like you probably are, and that's what I'll probably ask you next. What's your background that led you into this field? I'm sure you're not just entrepreneurial. You must have some technical facility.
Yeah, once upon a time, I was an engineer. I came out of MIT myself. I was actually a rocket scientist, literally. And I worked in the Boston area at a place called Draper Labs. And then I made a shift into consumer electronics. And I worked at Sony and Compaq and Hewlett Packard and Dell, and spent about 15, 20 years in the consumer electronics and PC industry. And probably the lesson for me from that is that creating new consumer behaviors is really difficult. You need to deliver something that's just a great experience. And I think if you look at the transition to EVs are great, right? They're fun to drive. The range is perfectly sufficient for most people right now, but there's just anxiety about this new thing you have to worry about. You have to worry about charging and range, and I want to make that effortless, right? I just park the car, I walk away, and I come back to it, and it's charged. I don't ever have to think about it. So we feel that capturing the next wave of EV buyers, not today's, for the most part, early adopters, because frankly, that's where we are today. I mean, early adopters are willing to make some sacrifices to get to the latest technology, and they're enthusiastic about it, either for green, reasons, for contribution to improving the environment, or for cost efficiency, but there's some motivation and reason. But to reach the broad mass market of car buyers, the whole charging experience needs to improve. And so we see wireless charging playing a key role in just making the EV the best car you've ever had in your life. Right? Charging just fades into the background. You never have to worry or think about it.
I think the whole thing is very exciting. Again, what it reminds me a little bit about is Bezos when he bought the bookstore, and everybody was like, he's losing all this money, and then he turned it into Amazon, and look what he's done now. How are you financing this? Are you self-funded already, or are you, where do you stand in the whole financing
Sure.
process?
Yeah.
Because
So
I
as a
would
company,
assume this is real money we're talking about to make this happen.
absolutely, right. And we've been at it for quite a while. We've been venture backed with both sort of venture capital as well as strategic investments from large global corporations like Intel or Foxconn or Toyota. And most recently, we just announced a few weeks ago a large strategic investment from Siemens, right? So Siemens, the big global electronic, industrial electronics powerhouse, it invested in WiTricity just a few weeks ago. And so, because we're now at the stage where the standards are done, the first cars are coming out, and we're pushing towards sort of global deployment of this new charging infrastructure. I should also add that it's not just for passenger vehicles. I think to a massive trend going forward is going to be the electrification of commercial vehicles, delivery vans, middle mile trucks, heavy duty vehicles, and transit buses. All need to electrify. I mean, if we're going to get diesel kind of out of the urban core and environment, we need to electrify. And wireless charging plays an important role in sort of lowering the cost of operations of those electric vehicles by putting charging kind of like where those vehicles naturally stop. It could be the loading dock, it could be a bus stop, et cetera. Again, just making charging just something that happens. It's embedded in the daily operations of those vehicles.
Well, I think one of the best spots I've seen, I'm not saying they're advanced, is if you've seen the corporate spot that was developed by Ford about how they're converting their whole technology, their factories, and the way they're working. And I think those are good marketing ads, they're good branding ads, but they're also good public service ads to orient people around where the world is going when Ford talks about their past and where the future is. And I don't know if you've seen those spots, because they can be as short as a minute or as long as 7 minutes almost, and they're quite impressive. Alex, I'm going to request that you come back to the show and keep us updated on what you're doing, because it's such an important story. And, for me, it's particularly interesting. I worked earlier in my career at the Chrysler ad agency, and I also worked on International Harvester as strategic planning earlier in my career when they were repositioning the company. So I've always found the automotive industry to be quite exciting strategically, but I'll request that you come back. But if someone wants to know more about you and your company,
well, come to WiTricity.com. Easy.
Good. And please promise me you'll come back. Our producer, Lauren Davis, will be reaching out to you as you progress. And I do wish you all the best of luck. And I believe in your technology, and I believe in the future.
Thank you. We're going to have a lot more news to share. So look forward to the opportunity.
I'm sure you will. So remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs.